that mock-up was terrible to the point where I just threw it in the bin. So I also don't have that one anymore. Hello you guys, and welcome to a new video. So I hadn't actually thought about filming this video. I have a new project, which is I'm making 18th century stays. I was just going to do my usual sort of video format where I sort of get all ready to the steps of actually making it and then show you the making of it. I've been sort of in the mock-up stage for the past like 2 weeks now, and I've been really struggling with it, struggling with the process, and I found I really in general struggle with fitting, and I think it might be because I wasn't trained. But I realized that if I'm struggling with this, maybe like putting the actual footage of what I'm struggling with might help someone else in the same situation. So a little bit of background. I have made 2 pairs of stays before, 3 technically, I guess. I've made a pair from Nora Wool's Corsets and Crinolines. I'll insert a photo here. That was sort of one of my very, very, very first few sewing projects, and I just did it exactly as in the book. So the fit isn't great. I never even finished them. Second pair was the American Duchess Simplicity pattern, where it's like front lacing as well, and those are really nice. But the combination of my fabric choice and materials, I'm not very happy with the result. They're not very sturdy, so they don't really do much in terms of shaping. Then my third pair of stays was made using a different pattern from Nora Wool's Corsets and Crinolines. And although it's a really beautiful pair, I didn't really understand the fitting of them either. So they don't fit very well either. They are too wide and too long, I think. So they're not the most comfortable thing to wear. So my point with this is that I want a slow project. I want something that I can hand sew just whenever I don't feel like getting out the sewing machine or cutting or anything. And I wanted to make a really good fitting, supportive pair of stays. It's a lot harder than just saying it. But yeah, the other thing I wanted to do is, because I am going to be hand stitching them and putting so much time into the construction, I wanted to cut down this mock-up and pattern stage as much as possible. So my first step was to ask around on my Instagram for pattern recommendations, and a lot of people recommended the Augusta pattern by Screw Patterns, which I heard of before, and it looked really nice. The people that had made it had a wonderful press of stays. So I bought that pattern, and then I started making the mock-ups. I didn't know if it was just me, but whatever. I cut size bust 38 in the curvy option. So the Augusta pattern has 2 options. One is a curvy option and one is a straight option. I thought I was curvy, but then I realized that my curviness is all in the hips and not the bust, so it has nothing to do with this. But my first mock-up was a curvy one, just straight up in a size 38 bust. That was okay. The first few things I noticed was that it was too wide at the front for me. That's something that happened with all the other stays, is that there's a bit where the stays curve up, and that's where the straps connect to, and that bit was far too wide for me, where it dug into the arm, and that's really uncomfortable. So that was the first thing I had to change. I had to shorten the straps quite a lot, and I thought it was too long in the waist, and this is what I keep coming back to, is that these are all just thoughts. I'm not a stay maker. So disclaimer, these are all just guesses and my personal experience that I hope might help someone else. So yeah, I thought it was too long in the waist. So then I used this really handy tutorial. I'll insert a link down below, because there's this blog post about the Augusta stays and stays fitting in general and how to fix those things. And that blog post was a lifesaver, and it's really essential, and I'll link it down below. It's really great. So I used that blog post to try and help me sort out what things I had to change, because I kind of felt that something was wrong, but I couldn't quite pin down what it was. So I thought it was the waist, and I thought it was too long. But I made those pattern alterations and then cut down my first mock-up. Because it was to get smaller, I just unpicked all the seams and cut it out from the same fabric. Which is why I can't show you that first mock-up, because I don't have it anymore. I do have some stories footage, which I might insert here, just so you guys have a look. I usually do all my sort of thinking out loud mock-ups, alterations, fittings on my Instagram stories, so do follow me over there if you want more of that content. On number 2, I sorted out a bunch of things yesterday but left them to try on today. So these are my mock-up for the Augusta Stays pattern. I'm really digging it. I like the shape it creates. There's only a few issues. So something that I noticed when I did my Nora courses and crinoline stays is that this point is way too wide for me. I had these on for an hour where I've been doing sort of just some work, and loose, so I don't know if you can quite tell, but like this is I'll leave that. Like continue over the waist, but if you can see here, the sort of boning point continues a bit further down. So it's not off by a lot. I think it might be off just by an inch. But I'm also not sure if that's just a 18th century stays thing. But I'm going to try to do some more research. I think according to the pattern, the waistline is meant to be 1 inch above the highest point of the tabs. I'm a bit confused about that, to be honest. I don't know where that is. But I'll recheck the pattern, see if the waistline is marked on there. I think it might be just a tad too long by maybe half an inch. I don't want to make it too short-waisted because I'm not sure if this is what it's actually meant to be like. Back to me. So I then cut out my second mock-up, which was much shorter in the waist. So what I did was I marked my natural waist on the mock-up, and then I cut back the fabric, the pattern, to the right, supposedly, waist. That mock-up was terrible, to the point where I just threw it in the bin. So I also don't have that one anymore. That second one was way too small. So the thing that happened when you shorten the front up, it also cut out a lot of the fabric on the side, and I didn't make any sort of, I didn't give way, didn't do any alterations to fix that. So not great. I was really upset with it, so I just threw it away. Good evening, team. I have a stays update for you. So this is the second mock-up. What I did was I altered the pattern so that I raised the waist, and then I recut my mock-up, my original one, and then just sewed the seams again. Things to report, the waist is much better. I still feel like this is a little bit too wide. Just, the armhole is better. I think, yeah, I think this needs to be pushed back again. Or forwards, I guess. The other thing is, although these look nice from the front, trying to show you the back. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a massive lacing gap. The pattern indicates it should be 2 inches, and it's consistently more than that. I'd say it looks like 4, maybe. That means I have to add quite a lot to the stays, and I don't really know where. And I think I need to lower the neckline a little bit as well, because it's meant to be a bit lower. Otherwise, I quite like them. I was really hoping that I didn't have to do this much pattern fiddling, basically. But the shape is really nice, I guess. And then I thought, no, this can't be it. I need to make it bigger. But I didn't know how. So what I decided to try instead is to go back to the beginning, and instead of cutting the curvy option, I cut the straight option. Because the difference between my bust and my waist isn't massive. So I thought that would work better. And I did the same sort of waist shortening alterations on the straight pattern now. And that is the third mock-up. And that one I do have, so I might insert some footage a bit later on. But I'm still not happy with that. I think it's the waist again. The waist is wrong. and I feel like the back was too short, and I don't know how that happened. Anyway, I was kind of really just out of it, and I just needed like a fresh start. I don't know, I just feel like I spent all my spoons on that pattern. And again, nothing against the pattern. I think it was my own sort of trying to make it fit and work and overthinking that sort of ruined it. So I know there's lots of really good experiences with the pattern, and I'm sure that if I had some like actual like professional fitting guidance, I could make the pattern work for me, but I'm just fumbling about. So anyway, I'll just show you. So this is the curvy pattern. I don't know if you can, the brightness is really weird. This is the curvy pattern, and you can kind of see where I've sort of shorten it here. I ended up taking about like nearly 5 centimeters out. That's quite a lot. I think that was my mistake. Okay, and then this is the straight pattern with the same alterations, so you can kind of see here. And then we went to the new draft. So I got out this baby, which I hadn't used yet, but I was really excited to use. And I used Morgan Donner's tutorial on how to scale it up. I'll link it up and down below. It's really great, and it works pretty straightforward for me. And so I got, I'll show you which stays it is. So my whole point is that I'm obsessed with robe à l'anglaise, and I just want to make like 60 of them. So the period I picked was the 1770s to 1780s. And I'll show you a close-up of this. But basically I used this pattern and I scanned it up and enlarged it using Morgan's instructions. And this is the pattern I got. And then what I did was I took the Augusta pattern, cut to a 38 bust size, and I sort of evened it out, because obviously this pattern as it is would not fit me at all. It was way too small. And so I just took that, you can kind of see, I'll do a close-up of the pattern as well, but I just sort of worked out the difference and added it on. And so we are now going to go into the 4th stays mock-up, which is actually the first mock-up of this new pattern. Hello you guys, as promised, I just wanted to show you the 3rd mock-up of the Augusta stays pattern, because I'm about to take all the bones out and scavenge all the bits for my new mock-up of the Pattern of Fashions pattern. I can't quite tell you what's wrong with it. I don't know what it is. I feel like there's something wrong. I don't think I'm familiar enough with 18th century stays and 18th century silhouette to look at it and go, yep, that's it. But if any of you are, please let me know. More than happy to hear. There's just something off about the proportions of it, I think. It's not quite giving me the conical shape. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I think the bust is really wide. These are way too big for me. I cut it in a size 40 because the second mock-up was too small, so I panicked. Shouldn't have done that. And this is also the straight version of the pattern. So at the back, it laces nearly shut, but even. Because it's nearly shut. One of my strips is coming out. One of my eyelet strips is coming out, so I haven't really tightened it as much as I can. I wanted to show you the back, but I don't think I can with this full camera without it looking really weird. But the back is somehow really short as well, I think. And the straps, I already cut down the straps by about 1 inch, but they still like, I don't know. Anyway, there's just a bunch of things that I think are wrong with it, but I don't know how to fix them. So we decided to try a new pattern. And the waistline is a bit weird. So you can see that my natural waist is here, and that's also where this is. And I think your tabs are meant to start 1 inch below your natural waist. So I definitely think I shortened it too much. But also when I shortened it, I didn't know that the tabs were meant to start 1 inch below your natural waist. Anyway, I kind of wanted a little break from this pattern, so I'm going to try the other one and we'll see how that goes. I just remember that my camera has an actual preview, so I can don't need to vlog in front of the mirror. I've had a YouTube channel for a year, you guys. Anyway, here's the mock-up of the pattern from Patterns of Fashion 5. I'll insert a photo. I would have talked about it already, but I'll show you the pattern. So this pattern had some alterations made straight up from the time when I photocopied it. So I sort of put the Augusta Stays pattern in a 38-inch bust over it and sort of added where I thought I could add, because it was obviously way too small for me. Just by looking at it, I could tell it was too small. So here's the completed... My camera died. So some info about the actual bits about the mock-up is it's made of 2 layers of plain calico and is boned with zip ties mostly. There's 1 steel at the back. The actual final product will be boned with synthetic whalebone, but I didn't want to cut and put them all in case I wouldn't use them because the shape would change. Let's talk about the actual mock-up. So I'm pretty happy with it. The worry that I had with the other mock-ups was the waistline. So you can see here that my waistline is here, which is on the side. It is 1 inch above the skirts. So the tabs are actually called skirts, apparently. Something I'm trying to keep in mind when I talk about these things. And so that's really important because it's actually, 18th century stays are actually meant to go over your waist. So the narrowest point of the pattern is where your waist is, and the pattern actually continues, extends, and flares out again. So it is meant to continue over your natural waist and smooth it out, which these do. I think that was a problem I had with the other patterns, is that I shortened them too much. So that's all good. I think you can kind of see the silhouette here, and I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty good. I want to like look at it a bit more. But other things that have worked out well are the armhole. I think the back is pretty good. I think you can kind of tell it's not laced properly because it's not made of the proper materials really, but there's about a 2 to 3 inch even gap across the back, and I think the height of the back is about right because it helps it smooth over and curve. I think the straps are a tiny bit too short for me. I think they need maybe ½ an inch added, not much more than that, because these straps are actually meant to be sewn on, rather than usually you have like a little eyelet and some ribbon that you can adjust the straps to. But these are actually meant to be sewn on, which I kind of like. Yeah, so I think the straps need a little bit more. And then I think the neckline is too high. From what I understand, it's meant to be a bit lower, so I'm going to cut it off by about 1 inch, I think, and that'll be fine. And then, as you can see, like the waist is fine. They're really comfortable. I can move around them. But then, of course, this doesn't have the... So the actual final styles will have 3 layers of linen. And one of them will be linen buckram, which should be sturdier than the other linen I have. And it will be obviously boned with a synthetic whalebone. The other thing is that I found happens with every single pair of 18th century stays I've ever tried is this, where there's too wide at the top for me, and so they dig into the armhole. And you can kind of see that the fabric, because of the pressure, already starts to like bend and crease there. So that should be a pretty easy fix, especially considering I'm lowering the neckline as well. I'll just lower the neckline and then move this sort of dip upwards, inwards. I'd say by about 1 inch as well, just so it's more comfortable. I did that to my other patterns of the Augusta stays, and it really helped. Made them way more comfier to wear, because seriously, wearing them is the only stress point that I feel at all. Everything else feels like really nicely like hugged, like secure, and I don't know, it feels really good, which I think is what I'm happy with. I think the shape is right. Again, I'm not an 18th century expert, which is why I think I'm sort of second guessing everything, but I think it looks pretty good, and these should be on their way to be my best pair of 18th century stays. The last thing I want to point out is this is the first pair of 18th century stays that I've ever tried on. It has a gore or gusset, whatever you want to call it. So this little skirt here is literally just a separate pattern piece, and then you have to slash this pattern piece and then just sort of sew on. This one is nicer. Sew it on. And this will give you extra room around the hips, which is really nice. But also it has an extra curve so that you can wear a rump, and then this sort of helps curve out that shape and accommodate it. So the next few steps are going to be, I'm going to alter this line here and alter the neckline. I'm going to extend the strap, and I'm going to unpick the seams of this mock-up, debone it, cut out, because I'm technically only making things smaller, I can reuse this mock-up. I really don't want to saw any more boning channels. But yeah, that is the plan. I hope this is helpful for anyone else who is making stays, just to kind of, I guess, see what you're looking for. Yeah, I think this is what I'm looking for. I'm not sure. Another thing I want to mention is that this kind of stays isn't meant to give you any waist reduction. This is meant to smooth out your shape, give you the fashionable silhouette, and support you. This is not meant to cinch you. I guess you could if you tried really hard, but this is comfortable as is, and I think that's fine. I haven't measured my waist, but I don't think it's doing much. And then with the 3 layers of bulk, like, usually stays are quite stiff, so usually they don't give you reduction, really. Yeah. And then with the extra bulk of clothes, I'm at my same waist measurement. That's fine. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. Let's see how the rest of it goes. Hello guys, so here are the stays. This is the second version of the pattern of fashions. The only thing I did was I lowered the neckline and I cut into the armhole. A couple of things. I think this will be fine. The only issue at the moment is that I haven't enlarged the straps, and I think the straps need to be about an inch longer. Let me tell you why. The back fits great, but I think it's a little low, and I need that extra pull so that the front can hang a little lower. I don't know if this makes any sense, but I feel like that's the issue. My waistline is fine. They are super comfy, and I think once this front sits lower as well, I'll have less problems here. It already doesn't do, it's already much better, but I can still very distinctively feel it here. So I might cut into that a little bit more, but only a tiny bit more. I've been wearing them now for 3 hours, so they're pretty comfy. The only thing I would say is that obviously they're not as stiff as actual stays will be. And so because I've been sat down in my Mullen posture, you can see that the front like flares out. So these don't actually have a space for a busk either, because they have the little gap here with eyelets, which I think is mostly decorative. But I don't want to busk either. So what I'm going to do is, I think these front bones, I might double bone them, which is when you put 2 bones of the synthetic in here. But it also might be that with the 3 layers of fabric, it won't need it. I think otherwise I'm pretty happy with it. So yeah. Hello you guys, I'm headless again, but you know, I'm here. I just done the last alteration, which I think I told you guys about in the previous clip, which was to lengthen the straps by 1 inch, and that has really helped. I added the length to the back to keep the shape of the straps. Just wanted to show you, I don't know how well it's laced. Yeah, that's nice. And yeah, so the back still fits really well. And then at the front here, that extra inch has allowed the neckline to lower, which is now perfect, I would say. I think that's absolutely fine. But also the fact that it's sitting lower helps with the cut of the neck, the underarm here. And what I've noticed as well is that because I simply tried it on and marked where I wanted to cut, they're uneven. However, I found that the left-hand side fits better than the right-hand side. This one is still a little bit, it's not as good as it could be, and this one is super comfortable, absolutely fine. So what I've done is I've marked with a little X the right side, the one I want to copy, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually disassemble the whole mock-up, and I'm going to transfer these pattern alterations to my actual pattern. And that should be it. But yeah, hopefully this will be helpful for anyone trying to make stays. The things to watch are neckline. For me particularly, I don't know if this affects anyone else, but so far all these stays, my biggest issue has been the underarm. Like, it's just so uncomfortable when it really digs into you, especially with the boning in it. So here, this little thing flaps, but obviously that's because the fabric isn't sturdy enough and the boning isn't sturdy enough. But once it is it'll be like this. Some of the patterns in the Pattern Fashion 5 book actually have a piece of reinforced buckram sort of inserted here for added sort of stability, I guess, to really smooth out and straight out this part. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that. It depends on the bulk that it adds, I think. But yeah, otherwise, this is what I'm going to go with. The other thing I want to mention as well is because of the way these stays are sewn, if you cut the fabric with large enough allowance, you can make alterations to it as you sew. So I'm not too scared because I feel like the important places, which are the bust line and the waistline, which are the harder to change in a pattern, are already set. I think it's going to be fine. So yeah, pretty happy with that. I don't think I'll make a little outro for this, so I'm just going to say thank you for watching if you watched this far, and look out for my actual stay making video, which will probably be in a year because I decided to hand sew these. So thank you all for coming along with me, and I'll see you next week.